Hi there, Facebook land and LinkedIn land and YouTube world. I'm Michelle.
I'm Jim.
We're from A Teak of Your Own. Welcome to another Motivational Monday.
Let's get motivated.
Woohoo! Yay.
Another Monday.
It is another Monday.
Another chance to go out there and set the world on fire.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want to do.
That is exactly what you want to do.
It's hot, so it's fairly easy to set things on fire.
But actually, it's kind of cool here right now. We're in the low 70s at the moment, so
it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It is a nice day. We've got some rain, so the grass isn't all crunchy, at least for the moment, and it's cooled the temperatures down a bit, so it's not too bad. It'll warm up later today.
Yeah.
As of right now, it feels rather nice outside. So
it rained last night.
It did rain last night. It rained into this morning, and
didn't get a chance to go to a concert last night.
No. Didn't want to go stand out there in the mud. So
that's okay.
So Ohio players, I'll have to catch you the next time.
Yeah. So they need to do something
indoors.
Yes. Yeah, actually, it'd be kind of nice if they did. I don't know that they do this anymore. Seven Springs used to have a concert series.
Yeah.
And it'd be cool if they did something over there.
Yeah, I don't know that they still do that. I know they have bands over there, but I don't think haven't heard about any national type acts. Yeah. Love to see them at the Palace or the Lamp.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Yeah. But at this point in their career, I don't know how much of an attraction they are for something like that. So never know.
No. And like I said, it rained last night, so I don't know how many people actually went to that show.
Yeah, probably was a thin crowd.
Yeah.
But who knows? I hope it was a good crowd for them.
I hope so. That'd be nice.
Yeah. They're one of my favorites. Band I grew up with, and so.
Yep.
As weird as that sounds.
Because you're old.
Well, no, it's not the old. It's the diversity of the music. I have a wide musical palette.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, so I think people would find it funny that see us at some place like a George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic concert, and yet there we were.
Yes, we were.
And that's because that's what I grew up on. Yes. So, and wanted to go see the Commodores, and
tickets are kind of expensive.
Tickets were a little pricey,
especially for the venue.
Yeah. So, but that's the way it is. Everything's getting pricey. So. Yeah. All right, what are we talking about today? I don't think they want to hear us prattling on about that stuff.
Today we're finishing up managing oneself. Ooh, the Peter Drucker booklet. Yes.
That's the way to write a book.
It is the way to write a book. And Molly agrees with you, apparently.
I guess.
Let's see what she wants. So the last section. That's how you know we're live. The last section of this book is about the second half of your life. And he's talking about the second half of your work life. He's talking about what it is that you're going to do during those last years. One of the points that Drucker makes in this, he says, when most people did manual labor, when they were working in the mills, when they were working on the farm, when they were working on the railroad, after they put in 40 years or so there, that they were more than happy to do nothing in retirement. And when it comes to today's worker focuses more on knowledge than they do on actual physical labor. And with knowledge workers, it's a little bit different when it comes to what's going to happen in the later years. Because one of the things that tends to happen with knowledge workers is they kind of get bored after a while with what it is that they're doing. They reach a point after about 15, 20 years of doing the same thing and working their way up the ladder to where they become very competent. They're excellent at what it is that they do, and there's no more of a challenge for them. And so what Drucker tells us in this particular section of the book is we've got some options when it comes to those last 20 years of our career. He says the first one is to make a change in what it is that you are doing. And he says it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge change. It can be as simple as moving from one different industry to another, or one different type of organization to another. So, for example, if you work in accounting and you are an accountant for a large manufacturing organization, maybe you decide to become an accountant for a hospital, or maybe you decide to become an accountant for a small business. But when it comes to making that particular move, you don't necessarily have to make a wholesale change in what it is that you're doing. It may be enough for you to just change industries or change different types of organizations to keep things interesting. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. What I heard, yeah.
Okay. So that's one of the options that you have there, is to change the type of organization or the type of industry, but keep doing what it is that you've been doing.
Right. And there's a lot of people doing that.
Yeah. The second option he talks about are to develop a parallel career. And he talks about doing this. What he talks about is basically starting up and doing what it is that you're doing, only doing it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So the example that he gives is working, basically volunteering at a nonprofit, doing something like that while you are actively working in what it is that you do.
It's kind of like what I'm doing now.
With whom?
Well, I'm still teaching, but then I'm also training.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. He's talking more along the lines, though, of nonprofits.
Well, yeah, but well, we've done stuff for nonprofits, so
yes.
Yeah, we're not a nonprofit, but,
right.
But yeah, but it's still it's essentially same idea. Same idea. You're doing the same thing. You just got it on two tracks.
Yes, and so that's what he said, because that way you can bounce back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
What will happen is at one point in your life you'll be more focused on one of those organizations than the other,
Mm-hmm.
and then later on down the road you'll make a change and you can switch back and forth.
Right.
Between those organizations, mm-hmm. because you've got a little bit more flexibility.
Right.
There. And since you're doing the exact same thing, it doesn't. You don't have to get out of the zone.
Right. And then at some point, if you decide you'd rather focus all your efforts on one rather than the other, then you can make that transition. So.
But it gives you a little bit of flexibility, still using the same skill set, mm-hmm. same strengths that you have, which you talked about very early in the book.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense to do the parallel job. The last one he talks about are social entrepreneurs. And these are people who do very well in their very first career, but they no longer find it a challenge. They are people who basically have gotten to the uppermost point that they can in their organization, in their career, in their field, and they need something different. Mm-hmm. And so once again, what some of these people do is look to the nonprofit world and literally create a new nonprofit to focus on areas that they feel passionate about. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I know there are people in the area who have started working with veterans groups. Mm-hmm. There are people in our area who have started up animal shelters. There are people in our area who have started working with seniors. And so what happens is they've reached a point, and some of them are like retired military, some of them worked for the government, and after 20 years they could retire. And so you have several people who have decided, you know what, I did the real job now, I'm going to do something that I find interesting and I've got more passion for. And so they start up a nonprofit or an organization where that's the focus.
Must say, it doesn't necessarily have to be a nonprofit.
He says that that's what most people will do because
if they've been very successful in their first career,
and that's the idea behind all of this is when you're managing yourself, you tend to be successful in what it is that you do.
Yeah, it's true.
So, yeah. He says that most people who manage the second half of their lives tend to be in the minority. That the majority of the people out there will literally retire on the job, and they will be the people who are just counting down the years until they finish. You work with somebody similar to that?
Yes, I've had a couple of colleagues like that. And then in our dealings with companies, we come across folks like that.
Yes.
It's always interesting when they're in one of our leadership training programs, and they're within spitting distance of retirement, and they can see it, and it's all they talk about.
That's it. What's even more interesting are the people who are not within spitting distance.
Yes, who are constantly talking about retirement. Yeah, that one's the one that always weirds us out.
Yeah.
When you've got somebody who's 15, 20, 25 years away from it, and it's all they talk about.
Yeah. That's what the focus is.
I used to have a colleague at another school, the first school that I taught at when I was up here, so I'm not going to name names, but at that time, he was already talking about retiring.
Right.
And I think he finally pulled the trigger about 15 years later. So he was talking about, and I don't know how long he'd been talking about retiring before I got here. But I think he talked about retirement for about 15 years before he finally did it. Retirement was definitely on his mind.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, the people who actually retire on the job, because how productive do you think they are?
They can still be productive, but their brain is definitely someplace else.
Yeah.
Their true focus is somewhere else.
And I don't think they're going to take on any additional.
Generally, no. Yeah. Generally, no. Especially the ones who are doing things like these days, trying to hang in there until they qualify for Medicare, and then saying that's the point where they're going to bail. And so they've got a definite date in mind. And I think that's what happens once somebody gets that definite date in mind and it's set in stone, and this is when I'm going. It's pretty much game over.
It is.
Yeah.
One of the other things that Drucker talks about in this section is he talks about how when it comes to managing the second half of your life, you have to begin long before you enter it. You have to have the plan in place before you can start doing that. And that's because, especially if you're one of those people who does want to start up something after you finished your first career, you do want to start a new organization, you need to start putting that plan in place early on, because it could take a while to do that. It could take a while to find the location, to find the other people that you want to put in place, to really flesh out the idea, come up with a business plan for it. So it can take a little while. Plus, if you are going the nonprofit route, you've got to work with the IRS to get that status.
Yeah.
And that's not automatic. It's a process that you have to go through. So if that's something that you're looking at doing, you do need to put some work into it before it happens. You've got a lot of time and effort that you need to put into what you're going to be doing. He also talks about, developing your major interest area early. Figure out what it is that you want to spend the time doing. A lot of people don't really think about what they're going to do for their first career. They just kind of fall into it. And you see this with your students.
Yep.
Where they get, if they're fortunate, they have several job offers. If they're not so fortunate, they may only have one
or two.
And so they go with that, and that's where they start their career. And there's not a whole lot of thought and effort put into it.
No, just wherever they can get a job.
Yeah. When it comes to the second half, though, you've got time.
Yeah.
You can plan, and you can actually think about what is it that you want to do. Where do you want to focus your time and energy? What is it that you really want to do with this part of your life? And so you've got the time to do it if you start early enough. But that's the whole crux to this part is you need to start early enough, and you really need to plan it out. Because if you don't, you're not going to be any better off than you already are.
Yeah, and then understand that your time to do this part is going to be much shorter than the time to do the first part.
Yeah.
And so you better be sure that, yeah, this is what I want to spend the remainder of my life doing. This is it. This is truly what is going to give me fulfillment. This is what is going to make me happy. This is how I'm going to be able to help the most people, have the greatest impact, and to leave a legacy. You know, a lot of people, they think about with their regular jobs, that's where they're leaving their legacy. But you know what? With a lot of organizations, once you leave that organization, they pretty much forget about you. I see that where I work. Well, we had some people that they were fairly large characters, large presence in our particular niche in our organization. And now that they've been gone for a while, you know, you start talking about them and most folks have no idea who you're talking about. And it's, to me, it's sad because I thought they had made a bigger impact than that. And it turns out they really didn't. Certainly not the impact that I think they thought they were going to have. And so you really need to think about that, because this is going to be, if you didn't make that kind of a lasting impact in the first half of your life, this is going to be your last chance to do that, to make that massive impact. So that's why, you know, John Maxwell, he keeps talking about where the legs to his legacy.
Right.
And that's what he's trying to do, even though, yes, he's made a big impact. A lot of people will know who he is, but he's set up this organization that will live on well past him. And, you know, will, you know, keep his name alive and keep his impact alive. So,
yeah. And I think that's what most people look for.
Yeah.
Most people want to know that what they do matters.
Yeah.
And what they contributed to the world matters, and that it's going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what it is that you're thinking about when it comes to that second half of your career. What is it that you want to do? What do you want to be known for? And what do you want to be remembered for?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, if you haven't gotten the book, there you go. Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker. Nice little booklet.
Yeah, I kind of put it in that category with the James Allen book.
As a Man
Thinketh. Yes. Short.
Yeah.
But nearly every word in it is chosen for a particular reason. And these are the kinds of books, like I said, they're not long. You can fly through them, but to truly get the message that they are conveying, you need to go through them slowly, piece by piece by piece. All right. I think it's time for us to be finished. So we're Molly barking some more because we've got the construction people out in front of our house, which is just lovely. So I'm going to wrap things up here. Say, have a great week, everyone. And we will see you next week. Take care. Bye.